Hollywood panics over massive cancellations of reality TV shows. Before live streaming, before podcasts, there was reality TV. It was a big segment. There was a lot of interest in it. But now it's pretty much a dying format. Coming from The Wrap, reality TV's illusion, why Hollywood stopped bankrolling unscripted. For Mike Hurst, a New York-based sound supervisor and sound mixer on several reality series, the pandemic was the beginning of the end of production work as he knew it. After getting through a 5-week shutdown on the TLC series Darcy and Stacey, a spinoff of 90 Day Fiancé, he noticed a steep decline in the number of jobs available. In 3 years, 86% of his clients vanished, including shows like Man vs. Food from the Cooking Channel, HGTV's Life Under Renovation, and DIY's First Time Flippers. We hear a lot of production is off for TV shows and films, but for reality TV, it's the beginning of the end. Here's why. First, there's massive industry contraction after peak TV ended. The end of the peak TV era, which spanned from 2010 to 2022, has led to an overall contraction in the industry. As a result, production budgets and the number of new shows being commissioned have significantly decreased. Then there's corporate consolidation. Mergers among major media companies such as Warner Bros. Discovery have consolidated the market, leaving fewer buyers for unscripted content. If you put together 2 big studios, if you put together 2 big platforms, they're going to share content. They're going to spend less money on producing new content. And if you produce content, you just lost a major customer. This directly impacted the number of reality shows being greenlit as these merged entities streamline their offerings. And then there's overall budget cuts. Studios across Hollywood have been tightening their budgets, reducing the amount that they spend on new programming, including reality TV. These financial cutbacks have led to fewer opportunities for unscripted projects to get commissioned. Then there was also a pandemic-induced saturation. During the pandemic, networks rapidly increased the output of unscripted shows to fill the gap left by halted scripted productions. This has led to an oversupply of content, prompting a reduction as the market now corrects itself. But that's not all. There's also a decreased demand for unscripted shows. Viewer interest in certain unscripted series has declined, with some formats failing to capture attention as they once did. Consequently, networks are cutting back on production, focusing on content with proven engagement. People are losing interest. It's not that novel anymore to be a reality show. Buyers and studios are also cutting back on whatever costs they can cut back on. Those cost reduction strategies, even for the shows they're buying, are leading them to cut costs by moving shows away from Los Angeles to New York, opting for cheaper locations across the US or abroad. This shift reflects a need to maintain profitability as budgets become tighter. Entertainment distributors are shifting to digital creators and sports content. Distributors are increasingly prioritizing sports-centric and digital creator-led formats, which draw more consistent audiences. This shift diverts resources away from traditional reality programming, impacting the number of shows produced. And if that wasn't bad enough, reality shows are part of an outdated business model. The business model of reality TV, which once thrived under cable's dominance, is now struggling in the streaming era. Rising production costs and the shift to streaming have made it harder to sustain profitability under this outdated model. There's a shift in audience preferences, with traditional reality TV formats no longer resonating as strongly as before. Networks are therefore hesitant to invest in these shows without guaranteed viewership, which with a new reality show concept, it's very unlikely to get guaranteed viewership. There's also a massive movement towards focusing on big names and intellectual property. Streamers are leaning towards projects attached to established intellectual property or renowned producers to ensure audience interest. This high bar limits the opportunities for smaller original reality shows to get noticed or to get funded. There is massively increased competition and streaming overload. Streaming platforms like Netflix have amassed large libraries of unscripted content, creating competition within their own catalogs. This saturation makes it challenging for new formats to gain visibility, leading to a slowdown in new commissions. Reality shows can have a longer shelf life than they used to have as well, so It's great to produce new content that people want to see, but when you have multiple seasons that people could just binge watch, that's more attractive than taking a risk on new material that doesn't fit that library. So a new reality show somehow has to stand out from all the libraries of already proven reality show material. The networks or streamers that do buy these shows want longer production timelines. The traditional 12-month production cycle for reality shows is no longer standard, as streamers opt for 18 to 24-month timelines to minimize financial risk. This extended timeline reduces the frequency of new show releases. And there's a major shift towards global production. Many reality shows are now being filmed overseas, where production costs and regulations are more favorable. This shift is part of a broader strategy to reduce expenses while still producing high-quality content. Even the buyers of these shows have their own economic uncertainty. A significant portion of unscripted projects, now estimated between 30 and 50%, are currently in development limbo due to uncertainty among key buyers like Warner Bros. Discovery and Paramount Global. This instability has left many projects without clear pathways to production. In business, it's not just about your finances and your resources, it's also about your customers' resources. You may have no business problems, but your customer may have business problems. So in this case, they're even more tied up to these guys, but they can't get commitments to complete their production. It's really a nightmare. Networks and streamers are becoming increasingly more risk-averse, only greenlighting projects that they believe will be major hits. This cautious approach limits experimentation and innovation, which historically led to the biggest unscripted franchises. They don't want to help you make a miracle. They want something that they know they can get their money back on. So you can have a great creative idea, but unless you can point to how and why exactly this will probably work and almost definitely work, they don't want to risk the money on it. The competition to distribute your content on a streaming service is unbelievably fierce. There are old reality shows. There are new reality shows. There are new traditional TV shows. There are old traditional shows, libraries of new movies, old movies. Multiple shows that viewers are already invested in that they haven't had a chance to binge watch yet. How are you going to release something new and get people's attention? If you had just the cable networks and you had just the broadcast networks and you didn't have to compete with all the other films and TV shows and all the other content and all the YouTube created content and podcast content, it would be a lot easier to get people's attention when you have a new creative idea. But even as we're seeing in Hollywood, they don't release a lot of new films anymore. Like 50 to 70% of new releases of films coming in 2025 are tied to existing intellectual property. It's really not that much more different on streaming services. So to produce a new idea is terrific, but who's going to watch it anymore? Attention is way too fragmented now, and in a couple of years, it's just going to be worse. There's also been a huge decline of social media platform investment. Platforms like Facebook Watch and Snapchat have significantly scaled back or completely shut down their unscripted production efforts. This has reduced the number of buyers in the marketplace, further impacting the volume of shows produced. Even if you're a producer and you weren't selling anything to Facebook, you didn't sell anything to Snapchat or any other social media platform that was interested in buying some reality content, even if they weren't your customer, it still hurts you as a producer when the market gets smaller. Less buyers means you're competing with more people who are also producing, trying to sell to a smaller market. Producers are also dealing with rising salaries in the US and compensation costs. Higher salaries and labor costs in the US is making domestic production more expensive, leading to layoffs and downsizing of production teams. As a result, more shows are being filmed with smaller crews or in cheaper overseas markets. There's a glut of unsuccessful reality shows. A significant amount of unscripted content released in recent years has failed to gain significant audience recognition. This trend has led companies to scale back production as they reassess their strategy for engaging viewers. Streamers are shifting away from frequent new releases. With tighter budgets, streamers no longer need to release new unscripted shows frequently, relying instead on periodic big hits and leveraging existing libraries. This has led to a decline in the number of new shows being produced annually. And lastly, and for me, this is one of the most horrendous elements of this for a producer, And this is how you know there's not going to be a lot of future in reality TV. Producers are losing international rights. A critical piece of the puzzle lies in how the decline has pulled back the veil on reality television's model of low-cost, high profitability. Unlike scripted TV, the unscripted business model has not evolved from the days of cable supremacy when reality series on MTV, E! And VH1 became part of the cultural conversation in the US. Quote, "It's always been a pennies and nickels business, not a dimes and dollars business," according to a former TV executive. Here's the key thing. The reality TV model is built on format ownership. Cable networks like MTV and VH1 pioneered a low-cost model where production companies of original reality formats sold the shows to networks, which in turn took ownership of the US version of that show and financed its production. So we're talking about being able to sell just the US rights for that show. Hopefully it turns into a hit. If it does turn into a hit and you're the producer, you can sell the format rights into other international places, other international markets. And then you can make a ton of money. But not anymore. For decades, reality TV show producers reported the money coming in from distributors to fund these shows as a revenue stream. They spent the bulk of those funds on production and delivery of the show, but made a profit from charging the network for equipment and services they provide to the production, such as camera equipment, editors, and more. Now imagine that production moves out of the country, or even in another state from Los Angeles. How can you charge them for using your equipment? It's not going to work because you're not going to send all your equipment to Romania or something like that. Producers kept the rights to the show's format when they originated overseas, with shows like Emmy-winning Peacock show The Traitors and summer hit Love Island USA, along with running favorites like NBC's The Voice and CBS's Big Brother. Production companies could make a buck selling the format for international versions of the show. A hit franchise or two raised the production company's profile enough to land it big investments, as well as a merger and acquisition opportunity within the marketplace that led to big profits for its founders. It's how the creators of Big Brother and The Voice formats made their fortunes in the 1990s and early 2000s. But as the cable TV landscape has dwindled, most reality TV concepts gathering buzz in the US have moved to streamers like Netflix, which can then distribute international versions of shows like Too Hot to Handle, The Circle, and others in-house. This undercuts smaller production companies from possible profits when they face pressure from distributors to deliver shows at a lower budget, despite costs increasing like they have for scripted content. Reality TV is not going to completely disappear, but there's a massive cutback. It's very difficult to make money. But a lot of the people in the reality TV business are getting absolutely crushed. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.